Welcome to From the Porch. I'm Shannon Berkelback, and I get to be on my porch today with the Chief of Police from the City of Waller. This is Chief Lopez, so welcome to my place.
Thank you for having me, Shannon. I appreciate it.
You're very welcome. We're just curious to get to know you here. So kind of what I've been asking people is first just like, how did you end up in Waller?
Well, I was a paramedic with Cypress Creek EMS for about 20 years. I was looking to make a change. I looked at Waller County Volunteer EMS. Back then it had two ambulances, one in Hempstead and one in Waller. And I spoke with one of the directors back then, and it just looked appealing to me. I had been in some big city EMS for a long time. I was also a reserve police officer with Precinct Constable 1, Bo Hashaw. And I wanted to make a change. I wanted to be somewhere a little bit smaller, somewhere where I could interact more with the patients.
Nice, nice. So, have you enjoyed being here in the smaller town?
I love it out here. You know, it's quiet. It was quiet. We're having a lot of growth now. I like the fact that I get to know people. I like the fact even as I go from Hempstead to Waller, Prairie View, in between, I know people. You know, I know their cars that they drive. I know their names. I know the names of their kids, and you know, I've been here long enough now where I'm seeing. I know the parents. I know some of the grandparents, and now I'm dealing with some of the kids.
Nice, nice. That's the whole thing about being in a small community, is that you have the generations like that, and get to really know about them at a deeper level and can support. And that's kind of what we want to do, is have the community where we can support each other. So, so how do you stay connected in other ways in your community?
Well, my wife and I attend church here in Waller. And if I had to place things in order, I would say it'd be my faith, my family, and my job. I put things in that order. Okay. We have friends in the community. We cater to the community. You know, we shop out here. You know, we get our cars repaired out here. We do everything. Waller's became home for me. You know, originally I'm from New Orleans. I came down here in 1996, and you know, working in Houston for a while really opened up my eyes to. I've never been around this many people at one time. So coming to Waller was just it was a relief, and I tell you, I've never looked back. You know, I love the people out here.
Yeah. My dad brought us out here in 1981. I was 10 years old. I'm going to calculate my age. But he was like, Houston's getting too big. You can have a horse. Let's go to the country. And I was like, sign me up. And I just waved goodbye to my friends at that age. I was not hesitant at all, and just loved. I mean, you just feel how peaceful it is. Mm-hmm. You know, I live on acreage with my horses. We can just look out the window and see the horses grazing. It's just peaceful out here. But as we were saying, it is growing.
Yes.
So what do we do to kind of handle this growth?
Well, I think we already have, so to speak. It's been a controlled growth. I mean, when I started with the police department back in 2013, I kept hearing, this is coming, this is coming. It was slow in coming, but it's here. The subdivisions, some of the bigger food marts are coming in. You know, medical care is going to, you're going to see a big increase in that. Growth is coming, and you can slow it down, but you can't stop it. It's here. When you have this many people that are moving in at one time, you want to make sure that we have the infrastructure to take care of these people. And that's what's here. The subdivisions are being built now, and so is the infrastructure. So if we'd have had all these subdivisions and neighborhoods gone in prior to us being ready with the infrastructure, that would have been a problem. But now you can see, and when the homes go in, here comes the businesses. You know, so we're welcoming these grocery suppliers that are coming in this direction, and some of the other businesses that are going to cater towards this, because we need it. You know, and that brings in tax dollars. You know, and we're just excited the fact that I'm excited the fact that I get to see the growth. It's here. The one I've heard about for the last 12 years, it got here.
Mm-hmm. And so these new neighborhoods, there's several that are in the city limits.
Yes.
So are you responsible for manning and
Yes.
dealing with the issues in those neighborhoods, right?
Yes, we are.
That's a
and
lot.
We're blessed to have a mayor and a city council that understands that. And we are planning for that. And instead of just waiting till the neighborhoods are full of houses, we already have the officers in place, or working toward getting the officers in place, so
Good.
that when these neighborhoods are established, that we will have the proper police coverage.
Right. That's going to be a lot. I've drove through those 3 neighborhoods that are kind of Field Store, 362 recently, just to look, and I couldn't believe how many houses are in there.
It's
So I saw that we're redoing the budget right now. That we're doing some workshops.
Yes, yeah, we did a budget workshop last night, and I will tell you that we have what the citizens don't realize is you have a very solvent city. You know, a city that doesn't, it's not a wasteful. So we have, we're planning on changing the infrastructure, or as it needs, as needed. The police department is growing as needed, grows into our administration staff at City Hall is the same thing. They're growing into what's coming. We're planning for that, and it's it doesn't happen overnight. So without some good plans, I think we would have been in trouble. But I believe that
I do think the city is doing much better than the county. The county is struggling with that budget, and I don't know what the difference is on like how they are making that money, that city tax versus Buc-ee's. I know Buc-ee's was a big provider on that sales tax because I went to some meetings on that. But you know, I interviewed the sheriff recently, and just trying to get the amount of people he really needs,
Right.
dispatchers, and just more cars, more, you know, just getting the stuff. Y'all are blessed to have a little better funding and ability to get that budget.
We are, and I want to go back and talk about the mayor and the council, whatever. They're not frivolous with the money. You know, they take when funds come in. This is not our funds. He has taught me. The mayor's even taught me that it's not my money. This is the citizens' money. We don't spend it just to. If I have something, I don't spend it just because I have it. I spend it because we need it. And I tell you, you look at a lot of these big city governments, and I don't know about the county. I'm sure they're good people out there, and they do what they think is best. But if you look at a lot of cities and counties out there, if they have these funds, they budget for these funds, and if they don't spend everything, they get penalized the next year. Well, we're not like that here. So we've been taught, you know what, if I don't need this $400,000, whatever the case may be, I turn it back in. I never had it, so I'm really not turning it back in. But if I don't use it, I'm not penalized the next year. If I need more next year, I get that. And that's what we're blessed with, a council that really understands their financial, they're physically responsible with your money.
That's nice. And I think they know you and get to know you, you know, because it is a smaller community and you care about your community, then you're going to try to understand, yes, I know money needs to be spent on
Sure.
the sidewalks or roads or infrastructure, different things. So nice. So anything else you would want to share? We just would love to get to know you and like.
Sure. Well, you know, you talked about your father moving you out here, and that really kind of touched my heart, because I did not want to raise my children in a big city. You know, I wanted my children to be raised more in a country style. So, you know, we moved to Magnolia, which is a lot smaller back then, and I was raised in New Orleans, which is, you know, a fun place to grow up. Back then, when 18, 15, all that was fun. However, it's not a place that I didn't want my children to repeat some of the mistakes that I made or some of the things that I did. So we wanted to get away and have them raised in a smaller town. So I really understand what your father was thinking back then, and I think my kids appreciate that. As far as getting to know me, you know, I said that my faith is the most important thing in my life. As you and I spoke earlier, I just recently started teaching a teenage youth group at the church that we at Riding with Christ Fellowship Church that we attend, and you know, that's been a challenge. You know, when I first started at that church, I was teaching adults, and I got comfortable with that. You know, I knew my material. I read my Bible, and I have a relationship with the Lord, of course. And so I'm going to get out of my comfort zone and started teaching the youth, and that really got me out of my comfort zone, because you got to be careful what you ask for. You know, you're going to hear things that you don't want to hear. Oh. So, but that's a small party. Back in, I tell you, something that's very important. Back in 2020, about 2020, my wife was diagnosed with cancer, and it was terminal, and she passed away in 2021. And I tell you, there's a lot of struggles that go along with that. But what my children got to see was, first off, it made me a better husband. You realize that, you know, what's important and what's not. And what my children had a chance to see was, how do you take care of a family member when they're sick? You know, that you don't just push them out, whatever case is. And sometimes I see a little bit of that in life. You know, somebody gets sick, or your parents are getting older, and we forgot about taking care of them. So I wonder sometimes, what are we teaching the next generation? You know, I'm you know, my wife died, and that was sad, but what my children got to see is, this is how you take care of family members. So I think that I'm blessed enough that if this happens to me, that they'll take care of me. At least I hope they'll take care of me.
Hope you raised them up right to.
Yeah, I hope we did that.
Not run from troubles.
Yes, right. So,
nice. Well,
you know, I tell you, with you know, we'll go in a different direction with this, but I'll talk about the people of the citizens of Waller. And when I first became the chief of police, I worked my way up through the ranks. I started as an officer, then I went to sergeant, and then captain, and then ultimately chief. And when I became chief, I pulled up my unit up on top of 362 at US 290, and I looked out, and to my immediate west, I could see Beacon Hills, Atwater. Then when I looked towards the east, I could see the old part of the city. I turned around and I looked to the south, and I could see part of the old city right there. And I realized that this was a real eye-opener for me, that I'm responsible for every person in that city. I'm responsible for their property. I'm responsible for them and keeping them safe. And man, that was an eye-opener for me. I never really thought that before. But
oh yeah, it's pretty powerful.
It was a real eye-opener for me, and scary all at the same time. But I take that serious. We don't have a high crime rate in the city of Waller, and I would like to think it's because if you come here and you do something wrong, you're going to pay a consequence for it. Not everybody goes to jail. Not everybody gets a ticket, but there's a consequence. You may get a ticket if we're called out for domestic disturbance at your house, and it's just a verbal argument, but you're disturbing the peace. There's going to be a citation involved in that. If you come over here and you rob, steal, whatever the case is, you're going to get caught, and you're going to pay for it. And we catch a lot of people. Yeah, and I'd like the citizens to know that, and I want anybody thinking about coming over here to Waller to do something ugly, there's going to be a consequence for it.
Yeah.
You know.
We do carry our guns out here.
But well, that's Texas, ma'am.
Yes.
So,
but we are still country here. A lot of the Houston people might not, carry as much, but percentage out here is a little higher.
Well, and I have no problem with that. I welcome that. We all have the right to defend ourselves. And but you see our cars out there. We have the white cars. We have some of the black cars, and that's not by design. That's simply because we had since COVID. The 2021, you're lucky to get a white one or a black one or a red, whatever the case is. So okay. We take what we can get at that point right there. They're very visible. I like the officers to stop and talk. That's what I do on Fridays. Basically on Fridays, I'm out riding around talking to people. I drive up and down the street. I think everybody knows that truck out there. And I stop, shake hands, see what you're doing. I stop in all the businesses. It's fun, I think in life sometimes, I'm on a roll right now. I think in life sometimes we forget about why we're doing things. A lot of the officers nowadays, not just my officers, but in general, police officers, deputies, federal, they forget that they started this because it was fun. It wasn't about the money. You were protecting, to serve, and you forgot that, or we forget that, and I love this job.
Well, it's not always easy when you're having to deal with emotional people, all the domestic people are mad because things are noisy. Just there's a lot of emotions on both sides of things. So I know your officers have to deal with a lot of things.
Yes.
So,
but then you get, like at our council meeting, we were able to acknowledge a couple of them that
yeah, I was there.
And I'm sure when they got on scene, and I lived this, and only can imagine, but it was probably 30 minutes of chaos for them. But they knew the resources were coming, because in any bad scene, the first 30 minutes is going to be chaos, 15 to 30 minutes. After that, when you get the resources in there, it calms down and you know what's going on. So, can you imagine that they pull up on scene and there's a guy laying there, legs spurting blood, and they don't know what happened. So,
no.
You're scene awareness, are we safe right now? I'm sure, they're taking care of business at that moment and having to put a tourniquet on like somebody that's screaming at you. And then people that are outside that are screaming at you at the same time. So that's a little bit of chaos, but they did a good job, and we need to reward people like that.
Yeah, it's good to acknowledge them and let me know. We appreciate you for doing that.
Absolutely.
It's not something I can do, not my gifting.
Mm-hmm.
My gifting actually is I actually do trauma work with my horse herd, equine assisted learning and psychotherapy. So I do actually, if you ever need to have some groups out here or private, the horses are very calming, and help bring awareness to why maybe you can't let something go or deal with the hypervigilance, because you have to be hypervigilant in that moment, and sometimes it's hard to bring it back down. And actually horses help do that.
Wow, I did not know that. But you're right, we get hypervigilant, and we, how do you let it go sometimes? As a paramedic, I've seen some of the most horrible stuff you're ever going to imagine, whatever case is, and I wonder, when does that come out? When do I let go of that? So that.
Yeah, and usually what I learn, it has to do with the lies that you believe, and so speaking truth of yourself. I mean, I don't know how you do it without God, honestly.
Amen. And my faith is what gets me through it. There's a lot of times when I have to call my pastor or call another pastor, hey, this is what happened. I can't let go of it. What do I need to do? And I will tell you the same thing my wife tells me. I've remarried, and my wife will tell me, give it to him. She'll always take her finger and point up and go, give it to him. And I'm like, I knew that already. So.
Well, I love seeing how you are staying connected with your community, that you're stopping in with the businesses, maybe seeing what their needs are, seeing how they're doing. That is just exactly the purpose of this podcast, was just to kind of help build community. Is there any suggestions you would have for other people that aren't doing that, different ways that they could, because we want to keep our town to have this small feel. We're having a bunch of people kind of from Houston coming that are city folks and maybe don't understand how it is to be in a smaller town where we're connected. So how do we get these new people connected?
Well, one thing is, and I think Sheriff Guidry may have said it, but be nice. Be nice. We have a slower pace. We do things a little different. You may have a car going down Pennock Road at 25 miles an hour instead of the speed limit at 30. Don't blow past them because they're going 25. This is Waller. This is where we live. This is where our kids are riding their bicycles. This is where the people are walking down the sides of the road. This is our home. And you're coming here, we want it to be your home. But be nice. You get pulled over by one of our officers or a deputy out there, they're doing their job. They're not pulling you over just because they want to pull somebody over. They're pulling you over for a reason. It may be speeding, it may be something expired in your vehicle, but be nice. They're doing their job. How that cliche go? You get more flies with honey than vinegar, or whatever the case is. A lot of times they're just warning you, hey, you're in our town. Slow down a little bit. That's what we like. And the businesses that are here and the businesses that are coming, we're excited that you're here. We're excited that you're coming here. But there's some precautions that you can take. Cameras are a big deal nowadays. Get some cameras in your businesses. Get some cameras on your homes. This helps a lot. It helps. Unfortunately, it's after the fact, but it does help with our investigations. these ring cameras or whatever, when somebody goes across your property, that makes a big deal. Sometimes that'll boot somebody off there that shouldn't be there. Don't assume, but don't take it lightly. You know, don't assume somebody's out to get you. But if you see somebody on your property, call. You know, that's very important. And you know, develop relationships. You know, that is the key thing out here. Is that the people that have lived here for many generations, whatever, they'll talk to you. They want to develop a relationship. So you move into the city right here on the south side, whatever the case is. The neighbors all know each other. They know the different cars and their kids, and you know, develop relationships with everyone. I will tell you that I worked the night shift for about 7 years, and I kind of got off again on that one right there. But I'm so thankful that you and I are talking today. This is
Me too.
I love this. I worked on night shift for about 7 years, and I got to know where if there was something just odd in your yard, the light reflected off something the wrong way, I knew right away something was different. If you had a new car, I knew you had a new car. When you had a new kid, I knew you had a new kid. That just from years of being out there. Well, interact with your neighbors, interact with your business neighbors, because these things are very important. Because when something goes wrong on a bad day, the first person that's going to be there is your neighbor.
Mm-hmm. And I have like 200 new neighbors going in next to my horse ranch. And so my first instinct, which is probably what most people do, is fear that they're going to feed my horses through the fence and make them sick or something. And I'm like, okay, we don't want to go there. So how do I fix that? So I decided I'm going to have an open house. I'm going to invite all the kids over to learn about horses and why to not feed them 10 carrots, right? Not to feed them your lawn clippings or sugar cubes. And therefore, if they learn to know who their neighbor is and that horses can't have that and why, then hopefully they will, you know, be kind and maybe come take lessons. That's fine. But I mean, there's 200 of them. I can't handle that many. But at least then if the teenagers see one of them doing something wrong to the horses, the other teenagers that have been here and care will be like, don't do that. They know the name of the horse. Mm-hmm. It's like if you know the name of your neighbor, even if it's a horse's name, then you're going to care more. You're going to notice more. So my instinct, again, I think most people is fear, to not trust their neighbor or whatever. Mm-hmm. It's in our instinct to do that. So I challenge you, if you are holding back to get to know your neighbor for some reason, then maybe challenge you to get to know their name, get to know something about them, and then it'll build that relationship and build the community that we want, right? You
were right on with that right there. And education is the key. The police department is always open. You know, we had this last Monday, we had the boys and girls from a boys and girls club from Hockley came out, and they were doing something, an amazing race. Now, I don't really understand what the amazing race was, but we had groups that come up to the police department and they simply asked questions. And you could tell that some of them were very apprehensive. And I think social media and stuff like that and news is kind of tainted that somewhat. But when the kids came in and they see these big officers and they see like short chief, whatever case is, and they realize that we're just people too. You know, and from the big guys and the ladies that are, you know, shaking hands with them and talking to them and actually asking them questions and concerned about their welfare, they you see a lot of smiles when they left out of there, that they may have had received bad information about what police are. Yeah, I think curiosity is just the key. If they can stay curious, ask questions, learn, because I always found that fear is lack of knowledge. I agree 100%, and I think that what you want to do with your neighbors and teaching them about your equine care and feeding, fantastic. I think that that'll pay dividends for you. Yeah, because how else do you get to know 200 neighbors at once? 200 houses of neighbors, so that's a lot of people. But the ones that are interested will come and hopefully spread the news of that this is a neat place. Right. So. Well, you can come out to Oakwood or Beacon Hills or Atwater, and the new one coming up in Cameron, we have about 5,000 new neighbors coming in. So yeah. I don't need any more clients, really. I'm kind of as busy as I want to be. You know, there's always something to do. But well, your place is beautiful out here. I tell you, I think I'm blessed this morning to get to see the sunrise and the reflections off the lake, and just this is a relaxing environment out here. Yeah, well, thank you for getting up early with us to beat the heat to
talk from the porch. Well, thank you so much, Chief
welcome.
Lopez, for coming to the porch. And if y'all see him around town in his truck, just give him a wave, be friendly, and we'll catch you later.
Thank you so much, Shannon. I appreciate you.
Yeah.